Viper only had only, about a minute more than Emma Frost. So clearly they still haven't, figured out how to use women mutants unless they're Mystique or Jean Grey. Jean has 2 minutes of screen time in this, but it feels like longer. She is just annoying. Not as bad as Joker from Arkham Knight, but that's the first thing I think of when I see her in this movie. It's unnecessary. It does happen. It does help a bit with Wolverine's trauma, and he finally moves on. We didn't even really get much of that in X-Men 3. It was just like, a movie that's almost 10 years late, finally dealing with something about Jean. And when Jean first died, Wolverine didn't care that much. Of course, he did care. He didn't seem as bad as he did. And they have this whole thing where he doesn't want to hurt or kill anyone anymore. And he goes to fight this guy at the bar. But he's, about to kill him when he hits him with a glass. But Yukio was like, hey, don't kill them, they're gonna die later anyway. And right before he's about to kill him, he's like, sorry, Jean, because, he's about to break his promise. But guess what? He doesn't kill any of them, right? So, his whole sorry, Jean, doesn't really matter. He could kind of just take it back. He didn't kill anyone, didn't hurt anyone. Well, as soon as the funeral scene happens, he murders people without hesitation and doesn't even acknowledge his promise to Jean. He only acknowledges it when the plot wants it to, and that's only in the beginning of the movie. It's never mentioned again. So I don't really get the point of adding that. It wasn't in X-Men 3 that he didn't want to hurt people anymore. I do understand why he would go in the forest and, live alone so he doesn't have to hurt people anymore. It does kind of make sense for his character, but it doesn't make sense how they handled it. And watching this movie, it made me realize something, that Wolverine actually got a trilogy. X-Men Origins, this one, and Logan. Oh, and Viper, it's kind of lame. I've read a few comics with her. She's also in Future Fight. And she has this power where she gets killed and she just sheds her skin like a viper. I don't really remember reading anything about that when I read about her, so that was kind of weird. Silver Samurai is in this. He's kind of lame. He looks like a transformer. There's no other way to explain it. And they have his comic accurate costume in the movie 3 times. So what was the point to not use it if you're going to use it that much? It's in the scene during the funeral. It is in another scene when he's having a nightmare where the Silver Samurai attacks him. And then it's in a third scene where the one guy takes it to defend himself after he gets poisoned by Viper. I do like that they didn't completely ignore his Japanese roots, because that is an important part to his character. I've always liked that. That's why I really like the anime show, because it's a big part of his character. Though I didn't like that they didn't have Silver Samurai in it from what I remember. It is a big part of his character. Oh, and they actually have this ongoing thing that I love that they, keep talking about how Wolverine doesn't like heights. It's first mentioned in X-Men 2, if I remember correctly. Both him and Pyro actually say it when they're on the plane, and they do this, like, big loop. Wolverine doesn't like it. He's scared he's gonna die, which is ironic. In X-Men Origins, it's mentioned when him and Wade and all the others are on the plane. And now it's mentioned in this one. If I remember correctly, they ride a plane in Future Past, so it's probably mentioned in that too. Wolverine is part of the reason Magneto, lost his powers in X-Men 3. But in the end credits scene, they don't even mention it. It's a setup to Future Past. But they hardly mention it. The only thing they mention is how Charles died in X-Men 3. Charles shows up. Wolverine goes, "How is this possible?" And the movie ends. Well, the movie already ended. That was in credits. But Magneto stops him from stabbing him. Which at first I was confused since, he still had his bone claws. They hadn't grown the animatium back yet. Then I realized that, his skeleton's still made out of adamantium. Still made out of metal. But I don't know why he didn't say anything about, Magneto still having powers. Should have questioned that too if they're gonna bring up Charles, which I'm glad they did, and didn't just completely ignore the fact that they killed him. What they mostly did with Viper was just have her kill random people to fill up her screen time. Some random guy comes up to her and thinks she's a prostitute. She kills him. She kills a few other people, and she has this boring monologue while Wolverine's strapped to a chair. She doesn't even explain why she poisoned him. I don't get why she poisoned him either. Because later she does need him for the claws. Well, if he would have died, what would she have done? What would she have done if he died? She just poisoned him for no reason, I guess. Because she gets him in the chair later and she needs his claws. But yeah, Viper and Silver Samurai were kind of boring, but overall the movie was still a decent movie. But there's really not much to it.